Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn Hebert. Community members are concerned about Entergy New Orleans' commitment to address the power to the ratepayers in New Orleans Parish. And I got to say, the fact that all of them left means I don't think they care too much. As council members, it is of utmost importance that you listen to your constituents on matters affecting their communities, and in this case, in regards to energy regulation and policy. ENO was one of the first organizations to try to bring the City Council's attention to the significant problems with the Entergy's gas plant. Ratepayers have returned today to address again the faulty infrastructure problems that provide service to our homes, hospitals, and essential care centers. ENO failed to address these problems even though you, the council, requested it happen. Undoubtedly, the outages in February did not warrant an emergency to repair or inspect poles, transformers, or the operation of the power plant. As a result, thousands of ENO customers were without power for days. Many New Orleans East residents did not regain power for over 4 days. Ratepayers were told that a black start would provide power in the event of, let's say, a hurricane. Well, we all know that that did not happen, and we need answers as to why not. On a side note, why were utility trucks from other states sitting in parking lots throughout the city in the week after the hurricane, when the power lines were down? Was ENO the contact point for assignments? Entergy New Orleans should be held accountable, and changes that should be made are in your control. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hebert. Monique Harden, followed by Susan Miller.
I just want to echo what Ms. Hebert said, that in this way, that the statement of concern and the conciliatory tone that Entergy CEO Deanna Rodriguez tried to strike in her presentation is not met by the action. Once again, we have words not meeting the action at Entergy by immediately exiting out of the chamber before comments could be presented, before follow-up can be brought to her from the members of the City Council and from people who are commenting online. That is disgraceful. With regards to this motion, I just want to mention 2 things. The first is that the agenda on the motion does not match the instrument. So, and I'm wondering if there could be work done by the committee, maybe to at least consider some way of addressing this. So on the meeting agenda, it calls it a motion, but the instrument is actually a resolution. And in the meeting notice, it said that the review would be basically managed by both the City Council advisors and, more importantly, the Council's Utility Regulatory Office. But when you look at the actual resolution, the Council Utility Regulatory Office is not included, it's completely omitted. So it doesn't matter to me if you call it a motion or resolution. It may have some parliamentary meaning. You all know that best. But I just really want this committee to consider adding the Council's Utility Regulatory Office.
Yeah, Aaron, it goes to the full council tomorrow. Aaron, draft that amendment. Make sure that you're inserted into that resolution. That'd be great.
Yeah, I can, but I wrote it. I will be involved in the review. I also manage the advisors, so I will be involved in every step of the process.
And you should be mentioned as doing such so that people can know, because this is part of this whole civic awareness we're getting. So put yourself in there.
Appreciate it.
And your team as well. So just, in full disclosure, I'm a big proponent of beefing up your office and getting the technical resources you all need to help guide us on a better energy future and path in this city. So the last thing I want to mention is, it's related, but it's kind of not, which is thinking back to the rate case decision by the City Council, where you all took the steps to make sure that Entergy would not include in the rates or bill charges the cost of litigating on the paid actors lawsuits. And I'm wondering if that same consideration can be made with regards to lawsuits we know Entergy will be facing with regards to the power failures during Hurricane Ida. I think just as a matter of public policy, people who have been harmed by this company in the power failure should not be paying for that company's legal defense against them.
Gotcha.
So,
Yep.
those are my 2
Points
cents.
well taken. Susan Miller, followed by Jack Reno Sweeney.
Madam Chair, may I make one comment?
Sure, go ahead, Joe.
Did Entergy tell the committee that they were planning on leaving?
No, I had no idea.
Presentation?
You know what, Andrew, where's my chief of staff? If my chief of staff, can you call them back to the
I
meeting,
mean,
please?
I think Ms. Hard and Ms. Abear make
Yeah.
really good points, and my point was about communication. Communication is a
You know,
two-way street.
the only thing I thought they were going to do was leave the table,
Right,
but I
not
didn't
leave.
realize they were walking all the way out the door until Councilmember Palmer pointed it out to me. I'm like, wait, did they really leave? And they're not, unless they're standing outside.
Yeah, and I'm not even on the Utilities Committee, but I think it's a really important thing to be here and to listen to the constituencies and the issues and same
Yeah,
with
let's call 'em back.
Councilmember
Thanks.
Nguyen. I don't understand why they just walked out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Miller, you're up. And
Thank you
then
very much.
Jack Reno Sweeney after you.
I'm Susan Stevens Miller. I represent the Alliance for Affordable Energy and Sierra Club. Thank you for this opportunity to speak this morning. The clients I represent strongly support this motion or resolution. I just wanted to make a couple points. First, the City Council must be willing to use its subpoena power. What we discovered in the investigation of the Actor scandal is the Entergy refused to answer questions from the hired investigators, and the City Council refused to exercise its subpoena power to get that information. So there's a lot of missing information with regard to that investigation, and that should not happen again. It's important to bear in mind that Entergy New Orleans is the purchaser of transmission for the city of New Orleans. It purchases it for its ratepayers. So Entergy New Orleans has to answer questions about what it knows about the transmission system. And what it doesn't know will be as telling as what it does know. I also would submit to you that you can ask Entergy Louisiana questions. You cannot force them to answer,
Yeah,
but there's
right.
no reason not to ask them. And just as one example, Mr. May made a statement with regard to the Avondale Tower that it had been inspected before it fell. Well, one of the questions is, who inspected that? There is no regulatory body that inspects these things. NERC does not inspect them. NERC accepts what the utility says about how it hardened it and whether it did it right. So knowing how they're doing the hardening, who's doing the inspecting, who's determining what should be hardened and what is not being hardened, because it's hard to believe that all 8 transmission lines were not hardened yet, and if they were hardened, then there's a problem with how the hardening is being done, because the hardening is supposed to be able to withstand winds of up to 140 miles an hour, and obviously didn't. With regard to NOPS, obviously my clients oppose NOPS in the proceeding. That's a given, but it's important today Entergy said that they were always discussed 2 options, the one that was used in the Black Start. But you won't find that anywhere in the testimony. The whole thing about NOPS was the Black Start, that it could start and it could be used. And one of the things we argued against it was that the distribution system will be down if the transmission system's down. The distribution system's actually more sensitive to wind and weather than the transmission system. So if you cannot use Black Start because of the distribution system's down, you will never be able to use Black Start if the transmission system's down. It just doesn't make sense. 2 other points.
Wait, Ms. Miller, that's your time. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Jack Reno Sweeney, followed by Ben Gordon. You're on hold with Entergy? What?
How's it going, y'all? Typical. All right,
Hey.
so after everything we had here, I had some prepared remarks, but I'm going to cut them a bit short in response to all that. Be a bit frank. Everyone here, above all this body, over the last few years, has been swindled by lies, false promises, and paid actors from Entergy, selling y'all total BS, let's be real. The NOPS, they sold it to y'all as some kind of miracle cure-all. Doesn't even work as good as the system did during Gustav. They said nothing about needing transmission, as the previous speaker mentioned, said nothing about needing transmission lines in. And moreover, Entergy's trying to have it both ways. Councilmember Moreno, you correctly said they're a $1 billion plus company, and they're like, oh no, we're little old Entergy New Orleans. But they're completely reliant on Entergy Louisiana sending transmission lines in. So you can't really have it both ways. And more to the point, they're talking about the damage and blaming it all on the storm. But before the storm even really hit, a good chunk of the city was out of power. And we know that the reason the system failed wasn't because of the storm, but because of their lack of maintenance, because we've been running out of power during sunny days for the last few years. So why did Entergy really fail? It's because it's not an Entergy that exists to serve the people of New Orleans. It exists to extract wealth and profit from the people of New Orleans and deliver it to their elite cadre of shareholders, mostly out-of-state, highfalutin investors, and overpaid executives who do nothing but make excuses in times like these. A previous Entergy New Orleans CEO, I couldn't find the most recent data, made just under $700K. That's $300K base, $160K bonus, and about $230 in equity, while the big dog CEO makes about $11.8 million. And for nothing. They don't accept responsibility. They're just here to make excuses. That's what they're paid for. My cousin in Gonzales, she's got a really big heart. When the army of linemen came into town, she sprang into action. It comes naturally to her. She offered to do loads of laundry for them because Entergy's done nothing to provide for such things. She found they had to sleep in cots that the linemen had to provide themselves, not Entergy. That doesn't seem very in it together for me. And moreover, we don't make millions of dollars. We don't make hundreds of thousands of dollars. How in it together is Entergy's executive leadership when there are folks dying in nursing homes in the heat, and they're just doing mighty fine? There's only one sustainable solution to this problem. Y'all said this is not what you're calling for, but I'm about to start calling it. I think a lot of other people will be calling for it. It's municipalization. There's no need to pay for lawyers and executives with lame excuses to justify their profits.
Hey, Mr. Sweeney, your time's way up.
Well,
I'll give you a little
anyway.
bit later.
We'll talk more in the
All right,
future.
sounds
Thank
good.
y'all.
Ben Gordon, come on up, followed by Gary Crockett.
My name's Ben Gordon. I live on St. Claude Avenue, and I've lived in New Orleans for many years, working at Charity Hospital till they closed. I want to start by thanking Helena Moreno for lifting the curtain once again, although it's been lifted before and nothing happened. But lifting the curtain and to expose some of the things that happened before, during, and after the storm. So I also want to thank many of the environmental groups, like the Sierra Club, Alliance for Affordable Energy, and others, who help us understand what's really going on behind the scenes. And I think we need them to understand. And a lot of the ratepayers, both offline and online, who made very good statements. I'm in favor of the audit, and let me say an independent audit. An independent audit that's going to give us a truthful look at what's going on. Because remember, the responsibility is to the ratepayers in the city, not to the shareholders of Entergy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Gary Crockett, followed by Marcia McWilliams.
Thank you. We give Entergy our money, and you as council are here to represent us. As I sat here and listened to both Entergy as well as the council, one of the things that bothered me is when we got to the comments area. When the comments started, and they started to be read, the council president as well as the other council members started to do other things. You weren't attentive. The main reasons why you were voted in was to listen to us, in particular about our concerns, and in this case, Entergy and the energy problems. This loss of energy costs 11 lives. That's negligent homicide. When I listened to what Entergy had to say, a lot of things were missing. As a consultant that has worked with Duke Energy and AEP and others, underground utilities is not a bad thing. They're only buried between 18 and 24 inches below the ground, easily accessible. In addition to that, conversations are not solutions. Where was the storm contingency? And what I mean by storm contingency, one that Entergy would have had, but also that the council would have signed off on as well. We paid for a plant that did not come online as was contracted. That is something very serious for the citizens. What are we going to do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? Where's the master plan? I heard a lot about planning. Planning should be done by Entergy, but also by the council as well, who allow these hundreds of millions of dollars to go to Entergy. That plan should also be executed. It's time for the council, who has a position and authority over Entergy, to do its job. Entergy was negligent, but I feel that the council was negligent as well if it doesn't straighten this out.
Thank you. I just wanted to let y'all know that CEO Rodriguez is on her way back. So she'll be coming back. All right, Marcia McWilliams.
Good afternoon. Here we are again, East New Orleans and Entergy. We voiced our opposition of the power plant being built in New Orleans East. However, it was built. East New Orleans residents were told that the gas plant had black start capability when the power would go out. In Hurricane Ida, that did not happen. Further deception to the residents after Ida had devastated New Orleans, Entergy's grid or map was showing power on in areas in New Orleans East when that was absolutely false. I had to call Entergy about the map because they showed my area had lights when we did not have lights. People who evacuated were calling me saying, Marcia, we're coming back home. We have electricity. I had to tell them, no, we do not have electricity. And they're telling me, but the map is showing we have electricity. I'm telling them continually, the map or the grid is incorrect. We have no electricity. Please stay where you are. Being the president of North Kenilworth and second vice president of ENO, I had a heavy burden on me because I'm listening to these people. I'm here in the heat, and they're there, and they think they can come back home, and they're starting to come back home with no electricity because the map was incorrect. So I did call Entergy about that. My final thing, Entergy, we're not going away. We are going to hold you accountable. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. McWilliams. All right. Aaron, do we have online public comment? Is this another card for this item? Okay, so just on to online public comment. How many public comments do we have on this? Okay, 5, read them all.
The first comment is from Dana Enos. Dear Utility Committee members, the Urban Conservancy supports EFNO's motion calling for a full investigation into what caused the Entergy power outage after Hurricane Ida, an independent management audit of Entergy Corporation, a review to determine the fairness of the cost on Entergy bills for the new gas plant in New Orleans East. Most importantly, we call on the committee and the City Council to make New Orleans climate ready for more storms and hotter days with distributed renewable energy, including expanding solar energy with battery storage in the city. This is imperative, and it is a solution within reach. Governor Edwards, Mayor Cantrell, and the other officials have stated time and again that as Gulf waters warm and weather events intensify, we can expect more storms like Ida developing in the Gulf with insufficient lead time to call for mandatory evacuations. To the extent that we can ensure safety to shelter in place, we must do so. On a personal note, my family of 4 sheltered in place in our home without a generator, as did our 101-year-old neighbor, Lula Haynes, across the street. Our most reliable devices were a solar-powered lamp and radio that could recharge every day simply by being placed out in the sun. These are small examples, but illustrated for me the potential for greater safety comfort, and reliability that a large-scale intentional investment in solar power infrastructure would provide. What an inspiring story New Orleans could tell of how it has harnessed the power of the sun to provide cool, comfort, and habitable conditions for all of its residents, including the most vulnerable to the effects of climate change, like Ms. Haynes, and to the effects of climate change like Ms. Haynes, and in the process reduced the stress, cost, and lost productivity during and after severe weather events. We respectfully request the members of this committee and the rest of the council to act with all urgency these matters require. You have many allies ready and able to work with you to hold Entergy accountable and to expedite a transition to greater investment in renewable energy. Scott Eustace. Entergy is a fraudulent and criminal organization which has knowingly misled the council and New Orleans for years on the nature of its new power station. Entergy needs to be denied any new construction or deny any ROI until it fixes its transmission lines to a Category 5 wind standard. Since Katrina, many, including our regional at MISO and Union of Concerned Scientists, have asked that transmission lines be prioritized by Entergy. Since these lines are how those of us on the MISO grid receive our renewable energy, I do not have solar power, but pay a premium to a company that uses the EPA certification process to subsidize clean energy development on the MISO grid because we know that Entergy New Orleans is opposed to clean energy and seeks to promote climate change. But Entergy has sought to sabotage this EPA process, and MISO, by sabotaging its part of the grid, the active neglect of its transmission lines. It neglected these in favor of construction monies for a fracked gas plant. Entergy New Orleans' refusal to develop a grid powered with 100% clean energy in the wake of Katrina is not merely negligent, it has actively subverted the simple goal of delivering power to New Orleanians. Entergy New Orleans and any consultants who recommended the NOPS plant must be seen as criminal by the council, up to the charges of felony murder. All monies raised by the increase in our energy bills must be devoted away from NOPS and instead be devoted to providing power after hurricanes to support the MISO plan for clean energy transmission from Iowa wind farms, etc., into New Orleans, and to develop local solar microgrids. Solar microgrids on homes have proven themselves in this storm and did provide power when Entergy failed and killed New Orleanians. My neighbors' solar power were even able to continue working the Monday after Ida. All monies raised for NOPS instead be devoted to establishing solar microgrids in New Orleans neighborhoods, prioritizing community centers and churches in neighborhoods with the greatest cooling needs. Ashley Schneider. Entergy was completely unprepared for a Hurricane Ida. The condition of the electric grid in New Orleans prior to Ida was entirely insufficient. Entergy was fine with it as long as they were making money, with no forethought or concern about the people of Louisiana. Electricity is a human necessity, and Entergy has shown they have little thought to real energy solutions to serve their customer base in the era of climate change. They are far more content to slap together a solution as long as they can make money. They should be held responsible for their actions. Angel Bradford. Losing power in the city of New Orleans has been an issue that extends well beyond Ida. However, I will keep my comments within the confines of Ida. If it is true, as I do believe it is, that Entergy makes and made commitments that they do not fulfill, whether their lack of participation cooperation with MISO, their lack of authentic, effective investments in hardening of their system, or diversification of their power grid, then Entergy is ultimately reaping what they have sown. Losing power is not just about the inconvenience of being without air or heat. It is a reminder to so many of us that we are at the whim and mercy of a corporation that does not have our best interests at heart ever. One that has lied, literally cheated with the use of paid actors to get their way. And their way did not even work. The one business that they are in, powering New Orleans, is something they completely lack competence in. Something that goes severely overlooked when the power goes out is the crucial work that is sacrificed in the hours after an outage. Those in academic medicine, researchers, and students at the medical schools within the city know exactly what it's like. Many of us have had to start over not once but twice or more in the past year, with the bird in the substation freak accident causing enough damage to mean I had to repeat my experiments and restart some processes over. Each time my graduation and own long-term planning impacted. We have to retrofit the city for climate change, and we have to retrofit our grid for the future that is right around the corner. Linda Witkowski. I am deeply disappointed by the lack of maintenance of Entergy's distribution and transmission lines to New Orleans. I urge the City Council to support any measures that will hold Entergy accountable for their putting profits over customers. We deserve better. Please consider creating a public utility. Thank you. Councilmember, that was the last comment on this item.
Thank you. And just so everyone sees, the Entergy team is back along with its CEO, Entergy New Orleans CEO, Deanna Rodriguez. And, just for you all who came back, you made a lot of comments at the table about caring for your ratepayers, and that includes, listening to your ratepayers as well. So the council would like you to just remain in the chambers during public comment so that you can also hear from them as well, whether people are coming up to the podium or whether the comments are being read out loud.
Absolutely, and we were watching. So I have a mom of a 5-month-old back there too, and as much as, I always have to tiptoe when I stand at these. And as much as we want to be there, we are paying attention. Absolutely. We agree with you and we're watching. So I'm new in this role. I did not know I was expected to stay. I'm happy to be here and I'm pleased to answer any further questions. So thank you for inviting us back.
And then I have another public comment card. That's David Nowak. Come on up.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to go back to Hurricane Zeta for a bit. My mother had just gotten out of surgery. It was a double mastectomy. She's a breast cancer survivor now, very brave with what she decided to do. She was discharged from the hospital 3 days before Zeta. And Hurricane Zeta was not a massive storm. It was certainly damaging to the area. But where we were at in Gentile Terrace, we were one of the last people in the city to get power. And because we did not have power, it's not just cooling with the heat indexes, but it's also the ability to have hot water to wash out wounds if you're caretaking for somebody who has an open wound. Or in the case of my mother, she had 3 open wounds at the time. She ended up getting a very, very serious infection afterwards, because it was 4, 5, 6 days without power. I lost track during Zeta. And I just want the people in the back who say they care so much and they're so concerned, that there are many, many deaths from Ida that were not caused by trees falling on somebody, were not caused by shrapnel from glass being blown out. This was not deaths caused by the storm. It was deaths caused by negligence and the inability to harden the transmission and make sure that we have a 21st century resilient city in the face of climate change. And so when you put $1 billion into a plant that doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it runs on natural gas. And as many of these comments have said, we could have put solar panels on pretty much every roof in the city. We could have had substations. We could have had backup power. We could have had backup batteries. The sun shone for 4 or 5 days after Ida. My mom had solar panels on her roof, but because of the way we have the system set up, once the power cuts out, there's no power in the house. So I'm very thankful that we were able to get her evacuated out for Ida, and so she didn't have to deal with this 10 days without power. But it seems trivial, but power is a life or death struggle. It is for the resiliency and the stability, both financially and our own public health, that we need to have a quick and expedient restoration of power. And so I implore you, there are very few municipalities in this country that have the ability to regulate utilities. When you allowed yourself to be hoodwinked by paid actors, that was the first mistake. You give somebody $1 billion and you only ask for 1.5 million back. The next thing they're going to do is ask for 2.5 billion, which is what they're doing right now. So I guarantee you, The people will not stand if we give away more money to this utility. It's time for them to take responsibility.
Mr. Nowak, I let you go a little over.
Okay.
You're done.
But I will say, if there's one way to take responsibility, it's to turn it into a municipal situation, and then there's no passing the buck. So
That's
it's
your
time to
time,
make
Mr.
it a
Nowak.
municipal power plant if they can't figure it out.
It's your time. Thank you. Okay, seeing no additional comments. Oh, you have another comment? Go ahead.
Just a real quick comment. In terms of the timeline for the investigation and public report, Councilman Moreno, is there thoughts to that?
Hang on, Mr. Morgan. Hang on, Mr. Morgan. I can't hear you, Mr. Morgan, but you're a little bit out of order there. Oh, okay. You know what? Come on and talk, and then we'll make sure that you you have it all filled out. I don't have it up here, Mr. Morgan, but come on up. And we have it, Mr. Morgan. Come on up.
My name is Larry Morgan, and I like to give thanks to my Creator for being here and the Holy Spirit to give me wisdom and knowledge that must be addressed to this council. And good evening to you, council, and everybody in the house. There was a comment that was made and an apology that stating Entergy was the victim. They're not the victim. They are the deceiver. The customers are the victim. And also, I want to make known, in the future, I had suggested that a member of the board be put upon the sewage water board. So it was granted. A member of the board was put it there. But it wasn't benefit to the people because the people bill was still high. Also, to come to the point is this. We need another energy company like a man has in the past kept on demanding, but was denied. This what came to my mind. All right, why don't we leave it up to the customer? I mean to the people, to the voter. Put it on a voting ballot, giving the people a choice of other energy company coming into this city. Because the reason is, like I told you before, the population has gotten bigger and bigger. It's impossible for one company to maintain this population in New Orleans. So what I said, please put it on a voting ballot and give the people a choice to bring this energy company into the city. We need it. And then another thing is this. We must respect the people and not a big corporation because they have the money to manipulate.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Okay, hang on. Beverly Wright, come on up. Dr. Wright.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm very happy to be here today. I would like to say that there are a few nonprofits in this city that I think do the work for the committee that's supposed to be regulating our utilities.
Dr. Wright, can you move to the podium? It's just that one is kind of squeaking a little. If you can move to the podium. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I would just like to encourage council members to recognize where they are in history right now. You have an awesome responsibility, and the decisions that you make will determine whether or not this city remains the city that we all love. I'm hearing now from people that they're thinking about leaving. I'm talking about middle-class black people who are the backbone of this city, tired of having outages, tired of living in what I describe as a company town. I don't know how many times you've watched movies where there's a company town and that particular company runs everything. That's how we feel. We feel that you have a responsibility and the ability to do some awesome things in changing this direction, but you seem bowed down under Entergy. this relationship that we have with Entergy because we can regulate them. You have a power, use it. So people no longer think that you're just a rubber stamp for Entergy. Some of the things that we proposed to Entergy years ago, we've been fighting Entergy for 5 years, not fighting Entergy to fight Entergy, but fighting Entergy for the citizens of this community and our future. And so a lot of times we're ahead of the curve. That's our job, to be ahead and to bring more progressive things to you so that we can protect ourselves. You have an awesome responsibility right now. And I'm praying for you that you make the right decisions because so often we make the wrong decisions for a lot of reasons. I'm listening to Stacey Head right now when we were fighting about the gas plant. You know what she told me? Dr. Wright, you know, I just can't do it because if all the lines go down, the city will go black. And this gas plant will save us. And our thoughts were, well, if everything goes down, that thing's going down too. That was just common sense. And guess what? It did. But the thing that has been forgotten is that the reason we were fighting the gas plant had to do with health. Everybody's forgotten about the health issue. It was about health. PM 2.5, which is why our Zulus died. St. John Parish, the connection between a pandemic, COVID-19, and air pollution. Black people live with more air pollution than anyone, and guess what? In this pandemic era, we're dying more than anyone else. That was the initial reason for being against the gas plant. That is still the most important reason to be against the gas plant, but there are alternatives, and you should look at what those alternatives are.
Dr. Wright, that's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.